Wall-E and the Red Dot. This segment is all about visual storytelling. And I, like everyone else, watched Wall-E and had a good time. It's an enjoyable film with a good message and a great little love story. But I got thinking later as my writer hat goes on about the red dot that brings Eve to the planet. And I thought, geez, that's really clever and that's hard to do. And anyone who's written a movie understands that, you're trying to come up with visual ways of telling your story. So if you were sitting there thinking to yourself, well, Eve's coming to the planet in a spaceship. How do we reveal this to Wall-E? And how do we reveal it to the audience? That's the important thing as well, so that the audience can be in on it and have some fun. So yeah, we could see, have him look up and there's something in the sky and it's coming closer and closer and closer, and then he starts to scoot towards it, something like that. But it's nowhere near as fun as what they came up with. Now, I did do research on this, and Andrew Stanton, the writer-director, said that it had been something that had already been in his pocket. It was something he'd already thought about. But from a writer's standpoint, it's a brilliant concept. So they have fun with this in the Wall-E segment, which is bringing the ship down. And what's really happening, of course, is the dots are all coming together. It's triangulating its landing position, trying to find flat ground for the ship to finally rest. So for us, the audience, we see the red dot too, but then we start to see more of the red dot. He doesn't see the other red dots that are starting to come around him until finally, it focuses on the ground, and then it's revealed when he looks up finally that, of course, a spaceship is bearing down on him, and he's, in extreme danger. So it's such a brilliant little bit of filmmaking that you don't even really think about when you're watching it, because it just seems natural, and you don't think about it as a writer because it's so effortless. But it's not effortless. Anyone who writes for film realizes that this is difficult. So when you're talking about visual storytelling, you're not talking about showing icons or something. It's not like Jesus on a cross or something like that, where you're going to have iconic images. And we're not talking about, at this point, as the writer's point of view, about camera angles and composition. Because a lot of people think, visual storytelling is in the director's hands. It's a compositional tool. It's a camera angle. It's a low angle. It's a high angle. It's a bird's eye view. All of those things, of course, are in the toolbox of the director. But in the toolbox of the writer is coming up with a visual idea. So if a man and a woman, I always use as an example, are going to break up, and you're going to set this story up. Well, you could set it up as two people talking in a room. Oh, I don't love you. You don't love me. We don't get along, blah, 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 and everyone's bored. Or you make it a simple discovery. She's going to do the laundry, or he's going to do the laundry, and a discovery is made of something in the pocket of the other person. And what does that mean? Is it a condom? Is it a ring? Is it a plane ticket, whatever. It's one of these things that is much more visual and brings the audience into, say, a mystery, and gets them involved in what does this mean, and then eventually, of course, you're going to get to dialogue and confrontation and those things. But it's much more fun if you work from a visual standpoint. So anytime that you're working on your story and you come up to a scene of dialogue or a scene of discovery or something, you're always trying to challenge yourself to say, well, how do I make this visual? How do I make this interesting visually? As opposed to just saying like, okay, well, I'll just have two characters just say it. And this is exposition as well. We'll come in to talk about that as I'll do a little segment on some of the worst exposition I've ever seen, which is in the film Congo. Where so much information is given out all at one time, and it doesn't need to be. It can be doled out as a story goes along, but it can be, the audience involvement, and that's what visual storytelling really helps. The audience is seeing something like the characters and not understanding it. And in Wall-E, it's the red dot. We're like, what is this red dot that suddenly appears? Especially on a planet that is desolate. Like it's just him and his little cockroach. And that's it. So suddenly something new comes, and it comes right after he discovers the plant, which is also something new in his world. So all of these things are visual, and these are the things that bring the audience into the story. Of course, they do a similar thing in Up when, apparently, and I have to look this up more carefully, but, all the sequence of them aging was long drawn out. Is it dialogue sequence? Is it this or is it that? And eventually, the writers whittle it down to that montage that's beautiful in Up that tells you the whole story of their lives, and through little visual cues like the change jar, the money jar that keeps having to be broken. Like something like that is so brilliant, and it's so hard to get to. So you as a filmmaker or as a writer, you're trying to come up with those things. It's not the director's job to come up with those visual things. Director's job is to help visualize the story and guide the performances, but it should be coming out of the writer, and the writer has to start thinking visually. So that's my 2 bits for the day. I'm going to go chase that red dot. I'll be back.